Welcome to Toy Polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from Toy Polloi. Now, a while back I reviewed the larger scale LED version of the Micronauts Time Traveller, as you can see here in the middle. And the cool thing about this LED light strap version of the Time Traveller is that if I turn the little thing on the back, you can see that he lights up. If I switch my desk lamp off here, you probably see that a little bit better. You can see that he's got a sort of a light inside him, a little LED, and that's quite a cool feature. Now, at the time, I was a little bit disappointed when I first got these figures because they are much larger than the original Micronauts Time Traveller. As you can see here, he sort of towers above the original figures, and I thought it would be quite nice to convert an original Micronauts Time Traveller and add an LED light inside him so that he lights up rather than having these larger ones, and that would look better and they'd be able to sit in the vehicles and still look pretty cool. So it's taken me quite a while to work out a way to do this. Originally I was thinking I would be able to modify a Micronaut, take it apart, fit a light inside it, and then somehow find space for the batteries, but really there's not a lot of space inside these old Time Travellers. It's all taken up with the sort of innards of the toy and how it's held together, because there's a O-ring that goes around this middle screw section that holds the legs in place. There's just not a great deal of space to add anything. So my next option, which is something I think will work, is I've bought a few different little lights here. Let me bring them in so you can see them. I've got a few different little lights, and I'm going to modify one of these to make something that a light that fits in this little screw hole on the back, and then there'll be a small cable that comes off to a little battery pack. And I think that should work quite nicely and enable me to still have these figures sort of sit in vehicles but have their chests glow. Now, the three lights that I've bought do different things. So let me turn my desk lamp off and we'll see how they look on the figure. So I have a white Micronaut here. If I grab this little LED light that I picked up off eBay, this cost 99p. It's quite a cool little thing. You can just press it and it lights up. And actually the LEDs fit quite nicely in the little back hole here where the screw is. So if I just pop that inside there and press it, you'll see that the Micronaut actually lights up quite nicely, and it's quite a convincingly bright light. So that was my first option. Second option is I bought these little key sort of, well, I don't know what I think they were called finger lights. Slightly bigger case for them, but you switch them on and they have coloured lights inside. This one's got a blue light, and again, if I put this on the back here and press it, you'll see that the figure lights up with a blue light. See, that's also quite a nice option. The third option I have is you can buy electronic tea lights. So you know, like the tea lights that you would light with a match and it would just sort of burn away. This is an electronic version. I've used these for an Ewok diorama. You should check that video out if you haven't, where I make a nice little custom Ewok diorama and use these to create little sort of burning flames in the background. So it's quite good. If I press the button on the bottom, you can see it lights up and it's got a sort of glowing effect and sort of the LED pulses. And I was thinking that you could just pull off the fire effect bit there, and you've got the LED. And this also looks quite good if I put it in the back of the figure. Oh, is that working? Oh, it is. It's not quite as... I think I might have broken that. Oh, there we go. There's the light working. If I pop that inside, you can see that that's sort of glowed. It's not quite as bright as some of the other ones, but it's quite nice because it sort of gives it a little pulsing effect. So really it's up to me now to decide which one I want to use of these. I think I'm actually going to go for the simplest one, which is this little light here, which does cost 99p, because I think the clear white light looks the best, and also it works best with these different colour figures. If I bring in a blue Time Traveller here, put the white light inside it, see, that looks quite nice. Also the orange one, bring that in. So I think that gives the best effect. So let's go ahead and we'll modify this and see what we can do to create a light that sits inside this Time Traveller. So here we have the little LED light. It's just a simple setup where you press a button on the side and it lights up. There's also a little catch that if I just flick that down, the light will stay on permanently. But the first thing we need to do is actually to get this LED to fit inside the little back section on the Time Traveller here. So you can see if I push this in to the hole there, you can see it does fit in, but the LED itself is actually slightly too long. So I'm going to see if, I've never done this before, but I'm going to get my Dremel out and see if I can file down the end of this LED and flatten it to make it a flat shape rather than a curved sort of rounded end. Now, I've never tried to file an LED down before. I have no idea what will happen. Chances are it will go horribly wrong, but it's always worth trying these things. So here's my Dremel. I've got a sanding end fitted to it. So if I switch on the Dremel, and we'll see if we can file this down. So there, I've filed the end of that LED down. It actually doesn't look too bad. Let's see if it still works. And it does. It still produces quite a bright light. So let's see if that fits inside the Time Traveller's back. Oh, it does. And that actually fits a lot better now that it doesn't have the rounded end. I may sort of sand a little bit more of that off just to flatten it down a little bit more so that it fits quite snugly in the back there. Now that we have that sanded down and it fits a bit snugger in the back there, what I want to do is I'm actually going to remove this LED from this little housing and attach some wires and work out a way to recreate the switch mechanism, which actually uses the legs of the LED to create the switch. So we need to recreate those inside this little case. Then we can have some wires extended out sort of 20 centimeters or something, and work out a way that we can make the LED sort of sit firmly in the back of this Time Traveller with a cable coming off, so that I'll be able to control it from a distance, and that should work quite nicely. The case for this little LED light is pretty nice. It's got 4 screws on the bottom, so it's easy enough to take the thing apart just by taking out the screws. Make sure you've got a little pot ready to keep those in so that you don't get them lost, because these are particularly small screws and the chance of losing them is going to be pretty high. Now that I've removed the screws, we can gently prise this open. We'll see how the switch mechanism is constructed. It's fairly fiddly. So what you've got is you've got 2 little batteries there. They're quite thin little batteries. I didn't expect them to be so small. These are 3-volt lithium batteries, so quite good little batteries actually. So we just slot those out like so, and then really all they've done is they've bent the legs of the LED in such a way that one leg sits on one side of the batteries, the other leg sits on the other, and then you've got a little bit of plastic that sort of pushes one of the legs up onto the underside of the battery. So really we've got to work out a way of recreating that without this LED actually in this casing. That could be fairly awkward. I'm sure we can work something out there. So in my toolbox I've just had a rummage and I found these cocktail stirrers. Now I use these to make bases for Probots. If you haven't watched that video, watch that one, because that's quite an interesting one as well. I often have lots of bits lying around in my toolbox that I've used for other projects, and using this is roughly the same diameter as the little LED that I've just removed from the casing. So what I've done is I've carefully cut off the small end piece of this little cocktail stirrer. I've cut some grooves in either side of it, and then I've taken the legs off a couple of other LEDs that I just happen to have lying around here. As you can see, I've cut the legs off that one, and I've stuck them to either side of the bit of little plastic, and then I've just wrapped some insulation tape around it just to hold it in place. I did glue them as well, but the insulation tape actually makes this bit of plastic slightly larger, and so it should still hold in this case. So now that I've done that, I've shaped the LED legs so that they match the shape of the original one that was in the casing, and I should be able to now, just to prove that this actually works, if I put this case all back together, so if I just slot this in the place where the LED should be, put the batteries back inside it, there's 2 of those as we remember, put the case back on, hopefully that will all go back together. It's a little bit fiddly, like so. Now you can see I've got two wires coming out the end. Now hopefully if I hold my LED onto this the right way round, it will light up, and it should light up only when I squeeze it. So if I push those on like so, and then squeeze the case, it's a bit awkward to do, but it should sort of show the principle. Put those on, then squeeze the case and it will light up. So you can see that is going to work. So now all I've got to do is attach 2 wires to the remains of these LED legs that I've stuck inside, and then solder them back onto the other ends of these, and we should have a little battery case with a sort of 20 centimeters of wire, and then going to the LED at the other end, and the switch mechanism still works. Now obviously you don't have to go through all this trouble. You could just buy a much simpler little switch case, but I wanted to try and keep this little case because I quite like it, and it's sort of a little bit of a Micronaut style casing, but obviously there's a much easier way to do this. I've obviously made this a lot more complicated for myself. So I'm just going to solder some wires onto this little replacement switch that I've made there. So I'm just going to put a bit of solder onto the little wire I've got here, and then we can solder this onto the first pin on that side, and we'll do the same on the other side as well. I've just got a couple of bits of heat shrink on here just to stop the bare metal touching if it ever does so. Just got to warm that up with the edge of the soldering iron and it will shrink down and should hold in place nicely. You can just do this with insulation tape if you don't have heat shrink. So now that I've got these two wires on, I'm actually going to twist them together so that they don't ever sort of come apart. So I'm just going to gently twist all the way up, and that should sort of hold them together enough, and then I can attach the LED at the other end, and we should be good to go then. So the last bit to do now is to attach the LED to the other end of these wires. Now I've already marked the wires because I wanted to know which leg of the LED went to which leg originally, and I marked these with a red pen, so there's actually a little bit of red pen on there, and there's a red bit of pen on this wire just so I know. That's the easiest way I find of remembering, especially when I've got wires that are the same colours. If I was using different coloured wire it would be much easier. And again, before I solder this on, I've got a bit of heat shrink just to slot over the edge on at the end of the wire there. I've actually got two different colours on this just because I've run out of black, but ideally they would both be black, but I just don't seem to have enough heat shrink left. So I'm just going to turn my soldering iron up to the right temperature and put a bit of solder on the ends of these wires, like so. Then get a nice bit of solder on, and we can solder this onto the LED quickly. That's one done, and hopefully if everything holds still. So now that everything's all soldered together, I can just put this case back together, and hopefully the way I've constructed the sort of replacement little legs should mean that this all works. There's only one way of finding out, that's to put it back together. It may be that I have to do some fine tuning and bend the legs a little bit to make sure that they aren't on permanently. Actually, you can see straight away that the light is on permanently, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of a modification to the way the legs are bent, but the whole thing does work. As you can see, it just needs a little bit of fine tuning. So a small amount of fine tuning later, and I've now got it so that if I just press this, the light lights up. I can also switch it on fully if I just switch that on, as you can see. So it is all working now. It took a little bit of fiddling. Actually, you can see it still needs a little bit more fine tuning, as that has not gone off this time. But it's getting there, it's slowly getting there. So a little bit more fine tuning and we will get this sorted, and then we can try it within the Micronauts Time Traveller again. And so here we have my final Micronaut. If I switch on the actual LED light man one that we've got here, let's just turn him on. You can see him glowing there, rather large. Actually, if I just turn the light around, you'll be able to see that a bit better. Now if I switch on my little mini one here, you can see it actually glows quite a lot brighter than the original one. It's a little bit sort of cumbersome, the fact it's in a separate little case here. But to be honest, it works pretty nicely. As you can see, all of these Micronauts suffer from the fact that they're really hard to stand up, but that's just something you learn to love when you collect Micronauts. But the actual effect of the glowing works pretty nicely. As you can see, it's quite a good effect, and you can easily pull the LED out of the back of this Micronaut and stick it into any other of the Time Traveller figures. So I'm actually pretty pleased with how this came out. It's probably easier to do if you just buy the sort of component parts, a little switch and a little battery box, but I wanted to try and make it out of something that didn't cost much. The little LED torch that I bought cost a grand total of 99p. The wire cost, I bought 10 metres of wire for about £1 as well, so in total this has cost me £2 to make my own sort of light up version of the Micronaut Time Traveller. So I'm really pleased with how it goes. It's certainly worth doing if you like Time Travellers and Micronauts. I would do this because it does add quite a nice little feature, and if you're doing little dioramas like this, it's going to add something to those as well. So I hope that video has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Toy Polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow Toy Polloi on Twitter and Facebook.